I need to ask you a question. And I want you to be honest now. In fact, I want you to close your eyes because I know some of you don't vote unless you see how your neighbor's voting. But I want you to close your eyes now. And I'm going to ask you a question. And I want you to be honest with yourself and raise your hand if you know this. How many of us know any Christian, just not anybody, not a Christian? How many of us know a Christian that gets on your nerves? Okay. Yeah. I know some of y'all peeking. I see some of y'all peeking. Some of you guys, yeah. I'm going to go ahead on and tell you, my hand is up. All right. Now keep your eyes closed. So here's the second question. How many of you who claim or who is a Christian gets on someone's nerve? Oh, my goodness. Y'all. Everybody's hand is up. All right. So you can open your eyes because some of you might stay asleep. Some of you were asleep already, but I was just trying to help you out to get back with us. Nudge your neighbor and say, wake up now. He's about to preach. Yeah. All right. So the truth of the matter is we get on each other's nerves, right? Now, this was no more evident, or this was very evident during COVID. Wouldn't y'all agree? In fact, now, the early part of COVID, we loved it, because at first they said it was only going to be 2 weeks, and we just thought we had a staycation, right? Oh, man, 2 weeks, I ain't got to go to work, and they got to pay me. I can stay at home, and we were watching all the Netflix we wanted, weren't we? I mean, Netflix was just going off the chart. We were just blowing it up, eating all the popcorn we wanted. I mean, we were just having ourselves a Netflix ball, right? Then after 2 weeks, they said 2 more. We said, okay, we might be able to handle this. But then we started watching Netflix in our rooms. Them 2 weeks were up, right? We started to about have enough of each other, right? But then weeks turned into months. And another month. And another month. Almost a year. And it got so bad, and statistics proved it now, that COVID during the year 2020, domestic violence, these are folks in your house, and divorce, these are folks you're married to, increased exponentially. In fact, it got so bad, folks were waiting on their stimulus checks, going to the mailbox, looking in the mailbox, getting their stimulus check, and kept it moving. Some of them never came back. They said, all I need are the clothes on my back and the stimulus check to start over. They said, I just can't put up with them no more. So it's true. Now, we're talking about your family. We're not talking about the folks at work. In fact, you were missing them. Did you shake your head, Sister Rhedrick? Did y'all see that? No, she didn't. Oh, man. Mr. Roundtree, I need to set up a session. All right, where was I now? So let's just look at what Paul has to say about this. Now, I can tell you all, because a lot of us, I know y'all watch a lot of Dr. Phil and a lot of Oprah. That self-help stuff is temporary. We need something that's going to work permanently. And this is talking about spiritual transformation, because life is a battleground, not a playground. And this putting up with one another is real. So we're going to deal with some reality today. All right. And if you're visiting with me, please come back and give me another chance. But I need to talk to us about our putting up with one another. And so for those of you who have your hard copies, open your Bibles to the book of Ephesians. And for those of you who have your electronic devices, I encourage you to pull down our app already. If you would tap our app in the bottom right-hand corner and hit worship, and then go to sermon notes, and then hit August 7th, you'll see the text there. We're in Ephesians, the 4th chapter. And we're going to come from the NIV translation. And there are many different translations if you have our app. But the one I'll focus on today is Ephesians chapter 4, in the NIV chapter 4. And let's just look at these first 3 verses. And there we find these words. As a prisoner for the Lord, then I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. So I want to talk about putting up with one another. I already told you that Paul wrote this letter to the church of Ephesus. This church is only about 10 years old. So the most mature Christian in the church would have only had 10 years of experience. Now, there were probably some who had been in the church for 10 years who have only had one experience 10 times. Y'all will catch that one later. And so because of that, they had a lot of young people in the faith. And the community in which they had come out of was a community that had a lot of tourists in Ephesus. It had a lot of political power and leaders in Ephesus. It also had a lot of businesses, a lot of business owners. And then there were a lot of religious zealots. I mean, they worship all kinds of things. And because of that, when they came out of that kind of lifestyle, they were now trying to take their new faith and blend it with their old ways. And because of that, there was some mess going on in the church. And Paul wrote this letter here to help them see what they were doing well and what they could do better. Now, in those first 3 chapters, and I want you to read the whole book. It only will take you, even if you were on the small bus, even if you were on the short bus, it would only take you about 40 minutes to read this whole letter. So somewhere between 30 to 40 minutes, you could read the entire letter. It's about 6 chapters long. Now, those first 3 chapters, okay, the first 3 chapters, Paul is talking about what we believe and what we should believe. And then in the last 3 chapters, he's talking about how we ought to behave. Are y'all with me that far? Say believe, behave. That's what we're going to be talking about today. What we believe, say believe, and how we behave. And so here now, he starts off this 4th chapter here. He says, as a prisoner for the Lord. Now, this isn't the first time he's mentioned his being in prison. In fact, he mentions it in chapter 3. But Paul isn't saying this to extract any sympathy for his condition. You know how we have some folks who keep telling you about their condition because they want you to feel sorry for them. Paul wasn't doing this. Paul was letting them know the first time he made mention of his being in prison, it was to let them know he was in prison because of what he believed. But now he's saying, I'm also in prison because of how I behave. And because of his belief and his behavior, he's saying, I'm in prison. He says, so I urge you, because of what I believe, all right, I urge you now to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. This word worthy here means of equal weight, meaning that the way you walk and the way you talk, they ought to go together. You know what I mean? It ought to be congruent. People ought to be able to see some consistency in your lifestyle. You ought to be the same almost everywhere you go. No, not almost, everywhere you go. Let me just ask the question. I just want to ask the question. Now, you don't really have to answer this one if you don't want to. Okay, but if I were to call some of your friends, some of your clubbing friends, you know, that you go out with drinking with, some of them, yeah, that was last night. Come on, let's be real about it, all right? And then you got some of your shopping friends, you know, some of those you go to the mall with. And then you've got your co-workers, some of them, you know, you go to lunch with at work. Okay, and then you got your church friends, you know, you in on ministries with. You got those folks, and then you got the folks that you live with. Y'all got them, and then you got them cousins that you know. right? And then you just got your neighbors, right? Everybody's got a neighbor. I don't care how far out in the woods you live, you got a neighbor. I'm talking about you, Brother McGee. You know, you might can't see anybody, but there's somebody next door. All right. So no matter where you live and how you live, all right, you got neighbors. Now, the question I want to ask, if I call someone from each of those categories and put them all in the same room and ask them to describe what you believe and how you behave, would they be congruent, or would there be some differences between them to the point they couldn't tell if you were a Christian or not? Would that happen? Is there enough evidence in enough street credit to convict you for being a Christian, or would you get off? Don't raise your hand. I see most of you like, I get off. All right, because we have all of these. What was that movie many years ago? How Many Faces of Eve? The Many Faces of Eve. It's old. Yeah, you have to be over 50 to know that one. That's why I don't know it. But anyway, I think it's called The Many Faces of Eve. All right, but you know some folks that schizophrenic Christians. You know, Christian on Sunday from 11 to 1, 9:30 to 12, maybe 9 to 9:30. Some of you done forgot you in church. Done cuss somebody out already. Oh my goodness, I'm in church. I didn't mean to say that. You ever had anybody tell you that? I didn't mean to say that. Because you forgot who you are and where you were. Anybody ever done that? Let's raise our hand on that one. Just one or two. Thank you, Brother Walters. Thank you. Yeah. Well, I know you do it all the time. You know? Now, where was I? Yeah. Okay. All right. So the first nugget I want to drop on you, the first table talk I want to give you is this one right here. Your behavior and your belief should always match. All right? Your behavior and your belief should always match. That's a difficult one for us because of all of those different places I gave us for all of those different faces we have. Right? So now, look how he tells us it ought to match. He gives us some characteristics or some traits that we as believers ought to possess. All right, so he talked about our belief and he talked about our behavior, but now he wants to talk about our being, how we ought to be. Notice what he says. He says, be completely. Let's just stop right there. The first word be means your existence, who you are, and that means who you are, where you are, even when no one's looking. Who are you? He could have just said be and go on to the next word, but he threw another. I think this is considered an adjective. Be completely humble. The word completely means that there's not a time you're not being yourself when you're not being congruent everywhere you go. You know, it reminded me of this man who went to a club one night and he carried this parrot on his shoulder. And he went to the club and the parrot was in there looking around and he's looking around. The parrot was looking around. And then the next day the man came to church and he brought the parrot too. And the parrot was looking around. And then he asked the parrot, said, what's the problem? Same crowd. Be complete. Well, if you come to church and that's how you act at the club, act that here. Don't be fooling us. Be congruent. But in this congruency now, he gives us some characteristics. He said, be humble. Now, I have to explain this word because in the first century Greek, the Greeks didn't like this word. In fact, people weren't like, it's really an insult to call someone, say that they were humble. And the same is true today because many of us think being humble is a negative thing. And so let me tell you, being humble is not a negative thing. In God's sight, it is a good thing. In fact, Jesus was humble. I believe it's Matthew, the 11th chapter, verses 28 through 30, where Jesus says, "Come unto me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." But in there he says, "Because I am gentle and humble, and you will find rest for your souls." All right. And so Jesus there is telling us that Paul is telling us that we need to be like Jesus. We need to be humble. And so here's what humble is. Humble, let me tell you what it is not, though. Let me tell you what humble is not. Humble is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. Listen to me again. Humble is not thinking less of yourself. This doesn't mean I need to think that you're better than me. See, this is why we have a problem with being humble, because if I think you're better than me, then you might look at me some kind of way. All right. But humility is not thinking less of yourself, because in God's eyes, we're all made in his image, regardless of where we are in our economic status, our educational status, our racial status, our gender, all of that. We're all level at the cross. All right. And so what is humility? As I said earlier, it is thinking it's thinking less of yourself, right? No, think less of yourself, not less of yourself. Think of yourself less. Think of yourself less. Okay. Don't put yourself in that first position. In fact, if you can just remember the word joy, you think of Jesus first, others second, and yourself last. Okay. That's the definition of humility. All right. All right. So now he says that's one characteristic we have to have. Then he says, when he says be completely humble and gentle, you can actually take those words, be completely humble, be completely gentle. That's what he's saying. He's saying that you need to be both of those. Now, notice what he says about being gentle. Gentle is another one of those words that gets misconstrued. It means for most of us that you're weak. Because that word in the Greek and in Hebrew is often translated as meekness. And when we see that, we think that means we're less, that we're weak, that we don't know how to stand up for ourselves. In fact, most folks expect that of Christians, for us to be weak. I don't want to be a Christian. In fact, can I raise my hand? I didn't want to be a Christian because I thought that it meant I had to be weak. I wasn't going to let nobody punk me. I'm just going to tell you right now. I ain't ready to turn the other cheek, so don't slap one up. I'm just saying, I got some growing to do, right? I'm just telling you the area in which I got to grow, so you don't want to test me in that area right now, because I'm not there yet. If y'all see me on the news that Pastor Rhedrick slapped somebody back, say, he did it. Because I'm not there yet. All right. But gentle does not mean weakness. All right. In fact, in the Greek, it is actually was the word that they use for tame and wild animals, like lions and elephants and horses. And you know, when you go to the zoo and you see them animals walking around, you know, you're not afraid of them because they're at the control and the command of their master. Listen to me carefully here. And they only act when their master tells them to act. And they only release that strength and that power when their master tells them to act. So in other words, gentleness is strength under control. All right? And you're waiting on your master to tell you when you're supposed to use that strength. And until he gives you the clue, put that hand back. When it's going for that face, get that other. Hopefully the left hand is saved. Because my right hand is, and I think my left hand is. So with that hand going, hold that. In the name of Jesus. Are y'all with me here? Is this helping anybody other than me? Okay. All right. So that's that gentleness, right? And so that's what gentleness is. But then it goes on. See, that's just two. Now he's telling us we have to be humble, we have to be gentle, and then he tells us, and you can take this, be completely patient. Okay, patient. Woo! How many of you need some patience? How many of you want it right now? See, you can't even wait. Look at you want it right. Yeah, see, you can't even wait to be patient. Don't ask for patience. You asking for trials and tribulation. Yes, sir. If you want some patience, it will come. I know. Yeah. So what is patience now? Let me see here. Let me give you the definition of patience here. Patience now is enduring, listen to this, enduring discomfort. How many like discomfort? See, yeah, that's enduring discomfort. Well, listen how you got to endure it now. Some of us might endure. I'm going to endure it, but with a pleasant disposition. I could stop there, right? While under prolonged duress, this means for a long period of time, you're going to put up with some stuff. Say ouch if you can't say amen. Thank you. So he's telling us that now. Now he gets to how we're going to apply it. See, you need to be completely humble. You need to be completely gentle. And you need to be completely patient. And then he says, listen here now, bearing with one another with love. Now, this word bearing means putting up with some stuff. Restraining oneself. Making allowances for other people's faults and failures. Anybody got any faults and failures other than me? Let me just tell you this. When I say bearing with one another with love, I'm glad Sister Rhedrick is married to me because I couldn't be married to me. I've already told her if she leave me, I'm going to. All right? Because she puts up with my faults and my failures with love. That word love is not talking about this old emotional love that we see on TV, that gets you all hot and bothered. That's why folks be on all those judge shows. I used to love them. But they don't make me feel the way they used to make me feel no more. So I don't want to be married to them no more, and I don't want their kids. All right? That's not love. See, this love here, come on now, y'all want me to go for another month, don't you? Yes, indeed. The kind of love that we're talking about is a sacrificial love. A love that doesn't promote itself. A love like that tells us about in 1 Corinthians, the 13th chapter. Love that is patient, love that is kind, love that is long-suffering, love that has self-control. That kind of love that puts up with stuff. A love that doesn't keep records of wrongs. Some of us got a file cabinet full. You done put it on a hard drive and put it in the cloud. Got a terabyte of storage space. Can recall stuff that happened in 1919. You weren't even born then, but you still remember because they did that to your daddy's daddy. And you still mad at them. That's why you sit over there and they sit over there. You don't even know what it was. You just know you need to be mad at them. Bearing with one another. We need to put up with one another. We need to know that everybody's got some faults and failures. We need to know that not everybody is at the same place on this Christian journey. We need to know that some folks are farther down the road than I am. And they need to put up with me for a little long. In fact, let me just give you an illustration, a little video here that can show you how we need to be able to put up with one another. Yeah. See, most of us are the little dog. We giving someone a fit. But thank God we got a big dog. And he puts up with us every day. 24/7 and 365. I'm so grateful that I got a God who puts up with me and all my faults and all my ways and all my imperfections. And because he puts up with me, he tells me I got to put up with you. And you got to put up with me. Isn't that good news? That we got a God who is gentle and humble. The God who created all the heavens and the earth. The God who put the stars in the sky and the one who caused night to become day. A God who made all the oceans and put the fish in the sea and the birds in the air and gave the beasts and burdens their life. And then he breathed life into our lungs. That one became a living being and we became human. That one came down 42 long generations, walked the dusty roads of Jerusalem, turned water into wine, took 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread and fed a multitude, caused the blind to see and the lame to walk, caused the deaf to hear. That one then went to the cross on my behalf when I wasn't worthy to be saved. Did for me what I couldn't do for myself. Put up with me and all of my mess, in all of my mess, while I was being messy with all of my mess. He loved me anyway. That one. That one. That one. Let me give you a second table talk. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Who you are should supersede your circumstances or what you're going through. Who you are should supersede what you're going through. How we act shouldn't be determined by what's going on in our lives. You know, people say, they just push me, Pastor. You don't understand the situation. I understand the situation, but the situation wasn't the problem. The problem was you in the situation. Yeah. So let me just tell you how he bundles us all up in this third verse here. This is how he says, make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit. Now, this isn't us putting the Spirit in there. He's telling us that this is supernatural, that you can't do this on your own. This is where Oprah and Dr. Phil miss out. They can't do this. See, we got to have something that we didn't earn. We got to get something that we couldn't get ourselves. It says, keep the unity of the faith, meaning that the unity of the faith was already there. And if you're a believer, he lives inside of each one of us. And he says, make every effort. That means do everything within your power. Don't worry about what the other person, what Pastor, they haven't done. Don't worry about them. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, did I make every effort? Did I do everything that I could do to keep the unity of the Spirit? Notice how he says now, through the bond. That word bond there's the same word he used for in prison. That like shackles, something that holds peace together. It just grips around your waist and it puts chains on you. You got to have chains on your hands and chains on your feet, chains on your mouth. The bond of peace. Now listen to this. You can't have peace with others until you have peace with God. And so he's talking about this peace that we have with God before you can have the peace of God. That's what he's saying. He says it's a spiritual work. And he goes on, when you read the rest of chapter 3 and 4, he goes on and talks about how that Spirit works. He says that's why he can say there's one Lord, one baptism, one church, when there's a oneness. So let me just tell you what unity is and what unity is not. Unity is not uniformity. A lot of us, we can put on the same uniform and still not be a team. Yeah, you can put on the same uniform and still not be a team. But unity is about oneness. And that oneness is Jesus the Christ. He's the one that we need to have our minds wrapped around and focused on and pulled into. When we have our minds stayed on Jesus, I understand now why my grandmama used to say, I got my mind stayed on Jesus. When you keep your mind there, you can put up with some stuff and you can put up with some people. So let me give you a third takeaway here. Let me give you a third one. Maintaining unity takes work. It takes work. Sometimes we as believers don't want to put the work in. There are going to be relationships that aren't going to always go your way. A lot of us, we like to run for the hills, take our ball and go home. I ain't going to do this anymore. I ain't going to do that anymore. I ain't going to do this. And they ain't doing what I want. They're not doing this and they're not doing that. So I'm not going to do this. Please. You're only hurting yourself. But if you put the work in and let the Spirit work within each of us, and remember that we each have some faults and failures. Remember that. And then we'll be able to put up with one another. Like Sister Rhedrick puts up with me. I told her she leave me, I'm going with her, I'm telling you. What we leaving behind? What you taking out? Yeah, that's what I'm going to take. Where we going? I'm tired of him too. That's what God does. He puts up with us. And if he can put up with us, with all that we have done to him, against him, how is it that we cannot put up with one another? Amen. Amen. Let me give you some takeaways here. First one, you must live in a way, in such a way that you don't confuse people. Remember I talked about first? Be consistent. Don't be a schizophrenic Christian. Forget where you are and who you are. Don't confuse people. And remember, relationship pressures will expose your true identity. Yeah, what's in you will come out, won't it? Yeah. Talking about you didn't mean to say it. Yes, you did. You just forgot who you were saying it to. Yeah. And then you must make allowances. Make allowances for others' faults and failures, regardless of where you think they ought to be in their Christian walk. Well, they've been at the church 40 years, they ought to know better. Maybe not. Maybe they only had 1 year 40 times. Yeah, don't look at the color of their hair or the length of their membership. Take it at face value. Allow some margin. Be patient with them. Be gentle. Be humble. So what's your takeaway? You don't remember anything else. What is it that I want you to remember? Endure others' faults and failures like Christ endures yours. If you don't remember anything else about this message, if God put up with you, I should be able to. If he put up with me, I should be able to put up with you. So I want to challenge you this week to focus more on who you are rather than who you're dealing with. Yeah, focus on yourself, not who you're dealing with.